At 8:14 a.m., my phone vibrated on the nightstand with a message that didn't just wake me up. It evicted me from my own family. We've changed the locks on the front door and the gate code. We no longer trust you. No argument. No phone call. Just a digital execution by text from the woman who used to call me her greatest blessing. I stared at that glowing screen in the dim light of my Denver apartment until my hands stopped shaking. Then I typed back a single word, noted. That was clever, Mom. Truly. But you forgot one thing. You can't fire the person who owns the company. Before I show you how I dismantled their world by dessert, I need to ask, where are you listening from? I need to know I'm not the only person who's been treated like an ATM by the people who were supposed to be my home. I used to think love was a balance sheet. That if I just gave enough, if I solved enough problems before they became disasters, I would eventually earn a seat at the table. In the Sterling family, that kind of love kept the mortgage current and the luxury SUVs in the driveway. My name is Sierra Sterling. I'm 31, a senior wealth consultant, and for 4 years, I'd been hemorrhaging nearly $6,000 a month for a house I didn't even live in. Every repair, every tax bill, every temporary favor had my signature on it. My mother, Margot, called it family solidarity. My father, Thomas, called it doing the right thing. I called it a hostage situation disguised as a legacy. Margot Sterling was a woman who could weaponize guilt like a precision-guided missile. Every sentence she spoke was wrapped in the fine silk of politeness but tagged with a price. Oh, Sierra, the HVAC system is making that rattling noise again. It's just so hard watching your father try to sleep in the heat. Translation: wire the money. My sister, Brianna, was 34 and had turned learned helplessness into a professional sport. She had 2 kids, endless emergencies, and a tone of voice that made my boundaries sound like child abuse. And then there was Thomas, 62, the peacemaker, who kept the peace by letting my mother and sister pick my pockets. He never defended me. When I found a suspicious credit inquiry on my report last year, he shrugged it off. Just a system glitch, Sierra. Don't be so paranoid. I wanted to believe him. I was 27 when I co-signed that mortgage, still naive enough to think that loyalty meant stepping into the line of fire. Family means trust, Margot would say. So I paid the property taxes. I paid the astronomical homeowners association fees. I even paid for the high-speed fiber internet so my father could stream his golf tournaments in 4K. When Brianna's transmission blew, I covered it for the kids' safety. When she overextended her credit cards at Neiman Marcus, I cleared the balance before she had to face her husband. I kept spreadsheets, hundreds of rows tracking every cent. I labeled them as temporary support. That word used to be my life raft. It made me feel like I could swim to shore whenever I wanted. But temporary has a way of becoming permanent when the people you're carrying realize they don't have to walk. The house became theirs. The debt stayed mine. And through it all, I mistook their dependence for affection. Every time Margot told me I was the rock of the family, I felt a surge of pride. I didn't realize she was just making sure the rock didn't move while she built a palace on top of it. It wasn't until the Facebook post that the scale finally fell from my eyes. I was sitting in my car at a red light on 17th Street when the algorithm served me a slap in the face. It was a photo of Margot, Thomas, and Brianna standing on the wraparound porch of the house I was currently paying for. The caption read, "So incredibly proud of our daughter Brianna for building a legacy home we can all share. A true testament to hard work and family values." My mother was holding a handcrafted wooden sign that read, "Home Sweet Home, a gift from Brianna." I must have reread that caption 10 times, my thumb hovering over the glass, waiting for my name to appear. It never did. The comments were a landslide of praise. "Brianna, you're amazing. Margot, you raised such a selfless daughter. What a rock for this family." I sat there, the engine idling, feeling like my body was made of glass and someone had just shattered it from the inside. They weren't just taking my money, they were erasing my existence. 2 days later, the bank called. A cheerful voice asked to confirm a request to update the primary contact for the mortgage to a Mrs. Brianna Sterling Vance. My stomach did a slow, sickening roll. I hung up without answering and checked my personal savings account. $2,800 were gone. A transfer to an old emergency card I'd shared with Brianna 3 years ago. I texted her immediately, "Did you use my card again? That was for my rent." 10 minutes later, a ping, Don't make this a thing, Sierra. The girls needed tuition for their private dance academy. Family first, right? Another ping, this one from Margot. Honey, Brianna is just in a transition period. Let's not start a war over a few dollars. A few dollars. It was never about the money. It was about the fact that in their eyes I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't even a person. I was a sponsor. That night my phone buzzed with an invite to a new group chat, the Inner Sanctum. Someone had sent a meme, a man holding a gold-plated wallet with the caption, Big Sponsor Energy. My cousin had tagged me. My father replied, keep the donor happy and the champagne flowing. I left the chat. They added me back with confetti emojis. I left again. This time I blocked every single one of them. The following Saturday I drove to the house. I was still paying the landscaper, but I wanted to see it one last time. As I walked toward the back patio to check the sprinkler heads, I heard voices drifting through the open kitchen window. It was Margot's voice, low, pleased, and terrifyingly sharp. Did you see her face when Aunt Sarah asked about the deed? She looked like she was going to cry. Brianna laughed, the sound bright and smug. It's almost finalized, darling. Margot's voice followed, soft but giddy. Once the paperwork clears through that contact Thomas has, there's nothing she can do. She's the one who put her name on the primary liability. It's her problem now. She's always been more of a guest with a deep pocket anyway, Brianna snorted. And then my mother's final blow, the one that turned my blood into permafrost. She's not family anymore. He's just a sponsor. And sponsors don't get a vote at the table. I didn't move. My water bottle hit the grass with a dull thud, rolling toward the bushes. I didn't even pick it up. I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out my heart and left a cold, empty shell standing in the garden. People think rage is a hot, burning thing. It's not. True rage is absolute zero. Every word I heard froze into a jagged, clean edge in my mind. In that moment I stopped wanting an apology. I stopped wanting to fix it. I only wanted the truth to have its day in court. I went back to my apartment and didn't cry. I sat at my desk, the glow of my dual monitors spilling across a mountain of evidence. Mortgage statements. Tax invoices. Receipts for Brianna's emergencies. I opened my banking app and my master spreadsheet. Line by line I traced the bleeding. 4 years of solidarity totaled $241,852. At 11:46 p.m. I canceled every automatic transfer. The next mortgage payment was due on the 15th. For the first time in years the bank wouldn't find my money waiting for them. Then I began my audit. I pulled up every text, every email, every photo. I organized them into folders. The debt, the deception, the theft. And when I reached the audio file, the recording I'd accidentally captured through that open window, I renamed it The Kitchen Truth. 3 days later, a thick, gold-embossed envelope was slipped under my door. An invitation to Margot Sterling's 60th birthday gala. The quote at the bottom shimmered in gold cursive. A house is built of bricks, but a home is built of family. I laughed. It was a sharp, jagged sound that startled me in the quiet room. I pinned the invitation to my corkboard, right next to the $241,000 total circled in red marker. 2 shrines. One to their fantasy, one to my reality. I called my grandfather Alistair. He was the only Sterling who had ever treated me with genuine respect, probably because he'd spent his life building the wealth my mother was currently burning through. When he picked up, I didn't even say hello. They called me a sponsor, Grandpa. There was a long, heavy silence. Then it's time they learn what happens when the funding is pulled, he said softly. I'm with you, Sierra. I didn't plan a confrontation. I planned a liquidation. I organized my files like a legal brief. I saved screenshots of the Inner Sanctum chat, the memes, the sponsor energy jokes. I pulled the credit report showing the identity theft. By the time I was finished, my apartment looked like an evidence locker. I wanted the silence to do its work first. I wanted them to feel the panic when the bank notifications started hitting their phones on the 15th. The night of the gala, the Denver air was crisp and biting. I arrived 20 minutes late on purpose. The ballroom at the Brown Palace Hotel was dripping in gold and emerald, Margot's royalty palette. Waiters in white gloves drifted through the crowd with crystal flutes of vintage Veuve Clicquot. Everyone was smiling their practiced high society smiles. A massive projector screen at the front of the room was looping a slideshow of Margot's life. vacations in Provence, holidays at the beach. When an image of the house appeared, the crowd broke into applause. My mother took the stage, looking radiant in a custom emerald gown. Her voice, sweet and melodic, echoed through the speakers. This house was built on the foundation of trust and passed down with the pride of a family that stands together. Trust. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. I walked toward the stage, my heels clicking like a countdown on the marble floor. I saw Brianna freeze. I saw Thomas shift in his chair, his face darkening. Margot's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing as I approached the audiovisual booth. I wasn't planning to give a toast tonight, I began, my voice amplified by the room's speakers. I stood by the projector, steady and calm. But since we're celebrating legacies, let's talk about the actual cost of this home. Sierra, not now, Margot hissed, her tone a warning. This is my night. I didn't stop. I reached into my clutch and held up a small silver USB drive. My cousin, who was running the tech booth and still thought I was the big sponsor, plugged it in without a second thought. The screen flickered. At first it was just background noise, the sound of a lawnmower in the distance. Then Margot's voice filled the ballroom, clear and merciless. She's not family anymore. He's just a sponsor. And sponsors don't get a vote at the table. The ballroom went deathly quiet. A waiter dropped a tray of appetizers, the crash echoing like a gunshot. I clicked to the next file. A screenshot of the family group chat filled the 30-foot screen. The meme of the man with the gold wallet. The comments, big sponsor energy. Keep the donor happy. I turned to the crowd of Denver's elite. This is what family legacy looks like in the Sterling house. This is how the woman you're celebrating tonight talks about the daughter who pays her bills. Then came the final slide. My master spreadsheet. 4 years of payments broken down by category. Mortgage, Texas, Brianna's debt, daycare, groceries. The total at the bottom was flashing in red. $241,852.14. This, I said, my voice echoing through the stunned silence, is the cost of your gift from Brianna. This is the price of the locks you changed on me last week. The silence was absolute. Margot's face had turned a sickly shade of gray. Her mouth worked, but no sound came out. Thomas stood up, his face flushed with rage. You ungrateful brat. How dare you humiliate your mother like this on her birthday? Humiliation? I asked calmly. You mean like when you used my social security number to take out a bridge loan last November? I have those documents too, Dad. Do you want them on the big screen? His jaw snapped shut. He sat down so hard his chair nearly tipped. Brianna stood up, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and fury. It was family help, Sierra. We all agreed that the house should stay in the name. We did it for the kids. Funny, I said, stepping off the stage. I don't remember being part of that agreement. I was too busy being the donor, you laughed at. A murmur rippled through the room. Neighbors and associates were whispering, eyes darting between the screen and the family on stage. Margot finally found her voice, though it was thin and cracked. Family supports each other, Sierra. That is what love is. You're being so transactional. No, Mom, I said, stopping at the edge of her table. Love is what you do when the cameras are off. Love doesn't come with a hidden invoice and a change of locks. Love doesn't erase the person who's keeping you alive. The room felt like it was holding its breath. The slideshow was frozen on the image of the house, the home sweet home sign looking like a cruel joke. I realized in that moment how small that house actually was. It wasn't a palace. It was a cage I'd been paying to stay inside of. Suddenly, a heavy rhythmic thump-thump sounded from the back of the room. Heads turned. My grandfather, Alistair Sterling, was walking toward us, his silver-headed cane striking the floor with rhythmic authority. He moved with a grace that silenced the remaining whispers. He reached the stage, took the microphone from my mother's shaking hand, and looked her directly in the eyes. You raised a thief, Margot, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. He turned to my father. And you raised a coward. I've watched you bleed this girl dry for years because you were too lazy to build anything of your own. Margot's eyes welled with tears. Dad, please, not here. I've already spoken to the estate lawyers, Alistair continued, ignoring her. The trust one established for this family is being restructured. Since Brianna is such a hard-working builder, she can start from scratch. The deed to the house, the family accounts, and the remaining legacy funds are being transferred to Sierra. Today. Brianna let out a choked sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. You can't do that. That's my house. It's Sierra's house, Alistair said, turning to me with a faint, proud smile. Legacy isn't a birthright, Brianna. It's a behavior. And you've behaved like a parasite. The room erupted. Half the crowd was in shock, the other half was already pulling out their phones to record the fallout. Margot looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. I didn't stay to watch the rest. I took the microphone one last time. You changed the locks, I said, looking at my mother. But I changed the ownership. I've left a stack of invoices on the gift table. Consider them the final bill for my sponsorship. My funding has officially expired. I turned and walked out of the ballroom. No one stopped me. No one called my name. The heavy oak doors closed behind me with a soft final click. The sound of a door locking for the last time. Outside, the Denver night was cold and clear. The city lights twinkled like diamonds scattered on black velvet. I pulled my coat tight and took a breath of air that didn't taste like smoke or lies. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't owe anyone a cent of my soul. 72 hours later, the notification hit my phone. Incoming wire transfer. $241,852.14. There was no name attached. No apology. Just the digits clean and cold. Alistair had made sure they paid back every cent of the sponsorship before he cut them off for good. I stared at the balance for a moment, then I did something I hadn't done in years. I breathed. I made a cup of Earl Grey tea. I sat in the silence of my own space. A space that was truly mine. No alarms. No frantic texts. No emergencies that required my bank account to solve. I replied to their lawyer's final email with a single sentence. Restitution received. No further contact required. Then I deleted the contact mom from my phone. A week later, I visited Alistair at his estate. We sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the Rockies in shades of violet and gold. They're moving out of the house tomorrow, he said quietly. Brianna is looking at 2-bedroom apartments. Margot is, well, she's learning how to live on a budget. I don't hate them, I said, and I realized I meant it. I just don't know them anymore. Forgiveness requires an admission of guilt, Sierra, he said, patting my hand. They haven't reached that yet. But peace doesn't need their permission. I looked out at the horizon, feeling the weight of the last 4 years finally lift off my shoulders. I had spent so much time trying to be the rock, that I forgot that even rocks can be ground into dust if the pressure is high enough. They changed the locks to keep me out. It was the kindest thing they ever did for me. Because when they locked that door, they forced me to find the key to my own life. And for the first time, the silence didn't feel like a threat. It felt like freedom. If you've ever been the one carrying everyone else's weight while they laugh behind your back, know this. You are not a sponsor. You're not a donor. You are the architect of your own life. And the second you stop building their house, you'll realize how beautiful your own world can be. Share your story below. Let's remind each other that love shouldn't come with an invoice. And don't forget to subscribe to The Sterling Truth for more stories of resilience and the courage to walk away. Peace isn't given. It's taken back.